Right, hiya, my name's Dave and I've been incensed into making this video, to be honest with you, over the HGV driver so-called shortage, the fuel shortage. I'm going to do some videos over a few different subjects, but I like to think that what I'm doing is common sense. Alright, so first of all, let's start off with my background. So basically, there's no point in listening to somebody who isn't speaking with some form of authority or knowledge on a subject. HGV drivers. I've been an HGV driver for over a quarter of a century now. I've worked for the same employer for many years, but before that I worked for an agency. Before that I had my own businesses, which included a mechanics business, so I had a garage. Also, before that I was one of the first two ever mobile mechanic services in the country, going back into the late 80s, early 90s. I was one of the first ever mobile mechanics in the country, and that's where I've come from. HGV driving qualifications, I'm a class 1 driver, so I've been a class 1 driver, as I've said, for I'd say quarter of a century, because I was a class 2 before that, but I've actually been driving HGVs this year for 26 years. So I did my class 2, went to an agency, spent about 6 or 8 weeks there, then went and did my class 1. I was on agency work, going all over the place, bouncing from one little place to another, sending me all over, and I settled in for one employer, and I went there for 18 months on the agency, and then I was taken on by the actual company itself, and like I say, I've been there for a quarter of a century. So a long time, know what I'm talking about. I've also been a union shop steward and a branch secretary for ERTU, which is the United Road Transport Union. So like I say, I am actually speaking with some form of authority here, so I do actually know what's going on, and I do know where the fault lies, where the blame lies, and where we can actually put things right if we decide to do so. But what I want to do first of all is go through the negative stuff. So what we're going to do today is the first little video is going to be like a potted history of HGV driving, what it's like to be an HGV driver, and then what we'll do in the subsequent videos is we'll go on to subjects like the driver CPC, driver shortages, and what we can do to actually put that right. And then if you quite like what I do and you're interested in what I'm doing and people watch it, then what I'll do is I'll carry on and I'll do videos on other subjects, because I've got quite strong opinions on quite a lot of stuff, because I like to look at things, because I started off life when I came out of school. I actually started off life as an engineer in my working career. I started off as an engineer, so I'm one of these blokes that not only knows how to put things on a car, I know what they're made of, how they work, and why they exert the forces that do, etc, etc. So I'm quite a technical minded person, and I'm quite a common sense person, because I come from a really poor working class background from Levenshulme in Manchester. My mum used to work at Reynolds Chains, McVitie's. My gran used to work at Reynolds Chains, and my granddad was in the war. My great granddad was in the First World War. So it goes back, and we like proper working class people. Well, that's what I like to think of myself as, anyway. And I've done quite a lot with my life because of that, because of where you come from. It makes you tough. And when it makes you tough, your kids, you do whatever it takes to feed your kids. Right, so let's get over into the first section, and what we'll do is we'll make a start on this potted history of HGV driving. Right, so let's go and do that. Right, so here we are over in section 1, and section 1 is going to be a potted history of HGV drivers and what it's like to be an HGV driver. Now, going back quarter of a century, when I started, there was some really bad trucks on the road, really badly maintained, some of the trucks that I went to. And over the years, that's got better and better with VOSA, which used to be the vehicle authority, and now it's the driver and vehicle licensing agency. So it's actually the DVSA, it's the driver and vehicle standards agency. And they overlook the stuff that VOSA used to overlook, which basically is the conditions that your trucks are in, making sure that you're sticking to your driver's hours, which I'll go into in another video. We'll talk about driver's hours and stuff like that, because people think that HGV drivers have got a nice easy life. Well, it's far from that. When I used to work years and years ago for the company that I work for now, but for an agency, not an agency, like a third party company, which was TNT Logistics, and it turned into Seva Logistics. Now when we worked for them, the job was bloody awful, if I'm honest with you, because we were doing virtually the legal maximum every week. And if you work in an office or you work in a supermarket and you think to yourself 8 hours is tough, you try 3 15-hour days a week and 2 13-hour days a week, and then you have 2 days off, and then you're back in doing it again. And if you do short days, or what were considered to us to be short days, which were between 11 and 13 hours, so if you did a short week, they expected you to work the Saturday. So you were working 6-5, 6-5, and anything up to 15 hours a day. Anything between, the shortest day we ever worked was about 11 hours, 11 and a half hours, and the longest days we worked were just short of 15. And sometimes they spilled over the 15, and we had to be recovered. So it weren't an easy life. If people think that HGV driving, and you're going to go into it, and you're going to be looked after, and you're going to have a nice 8.5 hour day doing it, then you're in cloud cuckoo land. And we did that for stupid money, really, really bad wages, considering what we were doing. Because if you think about it, you look at an HGV. What I'll do is I'll put a picture of an HGV up here, and as you can see, if you look at the driver's cab, where your steering wheel is, you're 18 inches from the end of your life every time you get in that truck. And you've got to understand that. It's like riding a motorbike. You get on that motorbike, you know what can happen to you. You know what the consequences can be of you getting in that vehicle every day. And it's the same for an HGV driver. Touch wood. Like I say, I've survived it for over a quarter of a century, and I'm still here to tell the tale. There's a lot of drivers that are not still here to tell the tale. Because like I say, you're only 18 inches away from the end of your life every time you get in that truck. And when they're paying you, which they were at one point, I'm in quite a good job, but there's plenty of people out there that are on £1 or £2 above national minimum wage for the job that we do. And like I say, some of them are what they call tramping, and tramping is a different story altogether. Luckily, I'm in my own bed every night, because that's the company that I work for. You get some lads that are out there, and these are the stories that you've heard them on the news lately, I'm sure you have, and you'll have seen 1 or 2 videos on YouTube like the one that I'm making here, and they're telling you they have to, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it like they do on a lot of the other videos. You have to shit in a carrier bag or a cardboard box. For the simple reason is as you drive down the A roads and you drive down the B roads and you see those parking things on the left hand side, no facilities in them. You might get a greasy spoon in a few of them, which is where you think about it, that lay-by is right next to the road, so this is going to give you an idea of what we have to put up with, or should I say what the tramping drivers have to put up with. You park up in a lay-by next to a road, yeah, you've got 2 things that could be going on. You could have a nice cab, nice and quiet, but every HGV that goes past you rocks your vehicle like a boat on a wave. So like as an HGV flies past, the air pressure that it creates as it goes past, it rocks the vehicle and wakes you up. So you never get a proper night's sleep. The other thing that you could have is you could have a fridge. Now if you're pulling a trailer or you're on a rigid, and this is just to give the normal people who don't drive HGVs a bit of a clue of how hard a job it is, and how mentally draining it is, and how physically draining it is. You can have a fridge behind you which has a diesel engine on it. So you can imagine all night it's brrrr, like that, and then it'll turn off, it'll cut off. When it cuts off, it wakes you up because it makes a clattering noise as it shuts down. And then an hour or 2 later, just as you think you're getting back to sleep again and you just drop yourself into a sleep, and away it goes again. So it wakes you up again. So for me, I mean, there's other lads that have been doing it years and obviously they're used to it, so it's one of them. I suppose you do get into it, but for the 2 days that I did it, like I say, I swore I'd never do it again, and I never have. So that's one thing. Again, you're away from home, so you're away from your family, you're away from your wife, and you're away from your kids to earn a living. And it ain't a good living, believe me, it ain't a good living. And coming up through the years onto today, it's exactly the same. Today, you go into a lay-by, there's no facilities, there's no toilets, there's nowhere to have a wash. You might get a greasy spoon, that'll shut at thing at whatever, 4:30 in the afternoon, maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So you've got nowhere to get any tea. So if you pull up there at 5 o'clock at night, 5:30, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock midnight, and then you've got to have your 9 hours off. So you can't move till 9 o'clock in the morning. You get there at 12 o'clock midnight. There's nothing. There's no food, nowhere to thing. You've got to take your own food with you. You've got to take your own bedding and everything. It's a tough life. I'm going to say that out absolutely straight. It's a tough life. Unfortunately, like I say, I decided that I wasn't prepared to do that. But there's a lot of drivers up and down the country that are doing that. And relatively speaking, they're getting good money, but they're getting good money under false pretences. What they're doing is they're getting a normal, average, everyday wage, and then I think now, I could be wrong, but I think now it's between £25 and £30 a night, and that's night out money. So basically, when you clock off at night time, you're with that cab, right? So you are an unpaid security man. So you're sat in your cab, you've got the trailer behind you with whatever goods that are in it. And don't forget, we've got some pretty nasty people around this country that break into HGVs. They hold drivers to hostage. They bang on your door, and if you won't answer the door, they smash your window and climb in. And they tie you up and take your stuff. So you've got to account up for all this in whether you decide to be an HGV driver or not. We haven't been training people up to do it because it's not an attractive lifestyle. It could be if you go to other countries. There's certain countries that you can go to where HGV drivers are not viewed like we're viewed. They're viewed as knights of the road, and they're applauded and they're respected highly, very, very highly. Whereas in this country, everybody hates HGV drivers, don't they? Everyone. Oh, I'm sick of these HGV drivers. You've got them two abreast going up the motorway, and there's only the outside lane to get past them on, and all that. But I've had this argument 1,001 times in the pub where I can hear people behind me and and in the end I've got to swing round on my heels and I've got to say something. And the one thing that I always say to them every time, and it's something that you must take into consideration when you think about HGV drivers, right? Everything, where you are now, you look round you, and everything, be it the water that you drink out of your bottles, be it the kettle that you put on to make a drink of tea, be it the dress that you wear to go out in, be it the house that you live in, be it anything, the kitchen that's round you, every appliance in your house, every item that you see round you comes on a truck. It doesn't come on a boat. There's no canals up the centre of the road at the high street to Argos or wherever you go to. Everything comes on trucks. And it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of guts and stamina to be an HGV driver. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it there, and this is the end of the first video, and what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to talk about the driver CPC and the actual silly hoops that you have to jump through to be an HGV driver. And I'm going to tell you why the people in offices and the people from the government are as stupid as they are, thinking, why can't we get any HGV drivers of our own? Why do we have to keep going and hiring them from other countries? Well, what I'm going to tell you tomorrow is exactly why, and we'll go through the CPC as well. Right, so thanks for watching, and hopefully you'll be back and watch the next episode tomorrow. Right, so take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.